Hey everyone, Clio here, and today I'm going through my July TBR. This is actually going to be the second time that I filmed this because, as so often happens, I forgot to check my focus before filming, and so the entire footage is slightly out of focus, so starting all over again. And I'm going to be semi-pretending like I'm just filming this one all over again. We are now the 3rd of July and all I've read is books that are not on that TBR, but I'm not going to mention them. They weren't part of the plan. But refilming this does give me the opportunity to mention that I will be participating as well in the pop culture readathon. However, I have not planned out what I will be reading for it, so I'm basically just going to be fitting in the books that I am finishing with the prompts on whichever board that there is, and then hopefully as the month progresses I will kind of see opportunities to finish a bingo. So this month I'm actually focusing my TBR, my pile of possibilities, on fantasy. It is my birthday month. My birthday was the 1st of July, so I already celebrated at this point, and because of it being my birthday month I want to be able to indulge in a lot of fantasy reads. So for this month I've picked out quite a lot of fantasy reads. If you followed my TBRs in the past, you know that I follow the principle of the pile of possibilities. So it is just going to be a list of books that are high on my list of what I want to get around to, but there's no guarantees of which of these books I'm going to pick up. I definitely won't be picking all of them up, and I do allow myself the liberty to pick up other stuff, as I've just indicated that I've only picked up other stuff since the beginning of July. I also went to the library, by the way, so there will be the reading vlog coming at some point in the month of July that will also have a library haul in there, and so I'm also reading some of those already. But so without further ado, because this has already been a super long intro, but without further ado, let's dive into the books. So first up, so I have a way too big pile standing next to me, and I feel like these books are going to fall down at any moment. But so first up is Master of Sorrow by Justin Call. This is, I don't know whether it's a standalone or the start of a trilogy. It's in any case a new one. It was published in 2019. Book 1 it says, so it's the start of a series. So Master of Sorrows, as far as I'm aware, because the description on the back says something very unrelated, but as far as I'm aware, it's going to kind of look at the premise of a chosen one, but a chosen one who's chosen to become the big evil. So I don't know anything else than that, but that premise just really got me hooked, so I immediately bought it, and it's been sat on my shelf since then. I still haven't started it. Don't know whether I'm going to start this month because it is a huge chunker, but yeah, I definitely do want to get around to it at some point and start prioritizing this one, especially since if it is book 1, I do want to kind of like get around to this one and then decide whether I want to continue with the series before the next one comes out. Next one is An Exception. Yeah, I have them here in a pile. I'm just going to go through it in that order because otherwise this pile is going to fall over. This one is An Exception. It's not a fantasy read, and that is Quichotte by Salman Rushdie. So if you've been following my channel, you also know that I try to finish the Booker Prize shortlist every year. I mean, I started last year. And so this is the final book on the shortlist that I still have to get through. Don't know too much about it. It's a Don Quixote retelling, so we will see. I also still need to read Don Quixote at some point in my life. Basically, I put it on my 2020 TBR, but it's 1,500 pages, so who knows when I'll get around to it. There are 2 other books that are on the long list for the Booker Prize that are low-key on my radar to read as well this month, but we will see because I already put way too much on this pile of possibilities. But so I want to finish this one because at the end of this month the long list for the Booker Prize 2020 is being announced, and by then at the very least I want to have the shortlist for 2019 finished. And then let's move on to the next one. This one is a non-fiction, which I definitely won't be finishing in its entirety in this month, but I do want to get ahead of. I do want to start it already, and that is Congo by David van Reybrouck. This is a non-fiction about the history of Congo. So Congo is the colony that Belgium had, so I'm from Belgium, and so this is a book that was published some 10 years ago. It's been on my radar since then. I cannot believe that it was published 10 years ago, so that it's already been 10 years of me putting this one off. So I bought it last month, and I definitely do want to get around to it pretty soon. So I do want to get a head start on it and already get a little bit of the way through. I'm hoping to have this be a non-fiction where we dive into the history of the colonial period, but definitely contextualizing it within the historical context of the region as a whole, or of the geographical area in its historical context. Next up, my final non-fantasy that is not entirely true. So that is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Acevedo, I think is how you pronounce it. So this is going to be my first Elizabeth Acevedo, but people have been so positive about all of her books. I've always thought them to be kind of not in my genre, and I still think that this is the case for this one, but this one feels more like it will be something for me. So this is also a contemporary novel, but it's a contemporary novel about two young girls who share the same father. I'm not entirely sure whether they are aware of each other's existence, but so the father kind of lives with one family for the majority of the year, and then in the summer he goes to the Dominican Republic, where he then visits his other family or his other daughter. And so he dies at the beginning of this book, and I'm assuming this book to be a lot about complicated family relationships and things like that, hoping to have a reclaimed sisterhood. So this is probably a little bit more in my ballpark than regular contemporary, because I think it's going to be more like hard-hitting contemporary. This is also told in verse, so we're gonna have to see what happens with that. I have enjoyed some novels in verse, but yeah, we'll see what happens with this one. And then let's dive back into fantasy. So this one, I'm probably assuming that it's not going to happen. It might not even happen for the entirety of this year, because I just haven't been feeling like it, but we'll see. And that is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, so the 6th book in the Harry Potter trilogy in the Harry Potter series. So yeah, everybody knows what this is about, but this is my least favorite Harry Potter, and I've been rereading all of the Harry Potters in order to kind of get a new grounding of what my order of preference is with the Harry Potter books, and so I want to reread it, but in part because it's my least favorite one, I guess, I'm really not looking forward to it. Also just because the more I'm reading Harry Potter, the more flaws I'm finding in them, so definitely after this reread I need to give Harry Potter a break for a very long time, which is not that much of a sacrifice considering that it's also a little bit tainted by J.K. Rowling's recent tweets. You know, I'm a fan of separating the art from the artist, but it's quite difficult if the artist is really shouting their views out there and has such a huge platform as J.K. Rowling does. Next up, we get to another first one in the series, and that is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. So this is, as far as I'm aware, sort of pirate fantasy, sort of a heist story, I think, as well. It's more or less all that I know about it. I know that it has, I think, also like a diverse cast of characters, and and a great example of sort of like a bromance or a great friendship. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I've heard great things about this series, which is called the Gentleman Bastard series. It's very much on like the top series for a lot of people, so I'm very much looking forward to diving into it. Stop saying looking forward to diving. So I'm very much keen to play catch up with this one, and also have my experience of what I feel about this book. Then we have a carryover from my June TBR, and that is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. So The Obelisk Gate is the 2nd book in the Broken Earth trilogy. All 3 books in the Broken Earth trilogy have won the Hugo Award, making this groundbreaking fantasy, and I definitely thoroughly enjoyed the first one. So in the 5th season we were following 3 perspectives as they move about this broken Earth, this Earth that is constantly threatened by forces of nature. There's constantly this threat that there will be major earthquakes, volcanic eruptions or something like that, and people are very much at the mercy of the elements. But there are these people who have powers to kind of control the land, but they are also very much looked down upon. There's a lot of superstition about these people. There's a lot of history with the way that the earth ended up in this broken state. A lot of people have blamed this on the people who have these powers, kind of forgotten what they're called. But so in any case, it's a super interesting world. Obviously there's commentary on the way that humanity has destroyed the earth, so on environmental issues, and there's also polyamory rep in this book, and there's different POVs, but they're also done in different narrative techniques. So we have a second person narrator, for example. One of the 3 perspectives is told in second person narration. So this results in a sort of interesting narrative tapestry. So I very much enjoyed I very much enjoyed the 5th season. So I've been trying to get this one into my reading life since, but I've always kind of like not prioritized this, and this month it's definitely getting read. Then there's a full trilogy that I'm putting on here that I don't know whether I'm going to be able to fit the entire trilogy into a month, but we'll see, you never know. And that is Ambassador's Mission by Trudi Canavan, which is the first book in the Traitor Spy trilogy. So the first one, Ambassador's Mission, second one is The Rogue, and the third one is The Traitor Queen. So this is a sequel trilogy to the Black Magician trilogy, which I read early 20s or something like that. And this is a series in which we are following our main character Sonia. And Sonia is a girl from the slums who one day finds out that she has magical powers. Now in this world it is only the nobility who have magical powers, and so she first of all goes into hiding to try and get away from people. But the book is going to be looking very much into this sort of like social these social teams, and it's going to very much look at the discrimination against the lower classes, the way in which the nobility looks down upon noble classes and is just using them for their own gain, and it's very much going to be challenged in those views with having Sonia be the first magician from the lower classes. So the first trilogy really was great. I really loved it for a very long time. It's been like one of my favorite fantasies, and maybe objectively speaking it's not the most well executed one, but I still have very fond memories of this series at this point. And so I'm going to be continuing with this series, which is, as far as I'm aware, not necessarily fully centering on Sonia anymore, but on her son. But I'm not entirely sure of that, so we'll have to see as I go through these books what their plotline is. I've how do you say that? I've deliberately kept myself from finding out too much about the series, so as to go in relatively blind. And then the final book that I'm going to put on my TBR, this was not on my original video, but when I watched the July TBR for Ashley from the Bookish Realm, I saw that she had organized her read-along for this book. She had mentioned it in some comments earlier, and I'd also said that I was interested. So I'm going to be participating in that. It's going to be a 6-month read-along, so we're going to be taking our sweet time with this book, meaning that we, like in her version of the book is 1,200 pages in total, so we're getting to around 200 pages every single time. Mine is a little bit shorter, but it's the same content. So the book I'm talking about is one of the biggest books on my shelf that is left, because I think I only have 2 books that are longer than 1,000 pages at this point, and that is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. It's this mix of English and French in one sentence doesn't work for my brain clearly. So, Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. So this is a adventure story as far as I'm aware. I've been told, I've heard that it's like one of the greatest revenge stories of all time. So as far as I'm aware, but I really have not looked into this premise at all. I know that my mother really loved it, so she gave this book to me for Christmas, and I think it is about a guy who ends up in prison because of for reasons. I guess he's being betrayed by somebody and he's going to try and enact revenge on those people. But so this is the chunk of the book that I have to get through in July, so not that much. For me that is like 170 pages out of a 1,000 page book, and I'm very much looking forward to doing so. I don't know, originally I was thinking of doing it like a chapter a day because it's 21 chapters and it's already the 3rd of July at this point, but I think I might want to do it in like a little bit of bigger chunks throughout the weekend, because I usually don't like having like reading something with like just one chapter a day. It usually doesn't work very well for me, so I'm probably going to be doing like a couple of chapters each weekend, more or less. So yeah, that is my TBR. Let me know down below if there's any books that you think I should prioritize out of those, out of the fantasy reads for example, and if you've read any of these, definitely let me know down below what your thoughts were on them. And I'm looking forward to a fantasy-filled a fantasy-filled month. But so yeah, see you guys for my next video. I'm trying to film a few and edit a few, but it's really not going as fast as I thought it was going to go. So hopefully I'll get some more things done this weekend and we'll be able to have some videos pre-filmed, pre-scheduled, because that sounds like such a luxury at this point. So yeah, see you guys for the next one.